ridiculous. Well, here's the thing.
Maybe. Sometimes.
Tell me about this. I want to know more.
Oh, yeah. No.
Holy cow.
We've had a lot of fun.
So the good news is that the repairman already left, so we won't have to interrupt our podcast with the arrival of the repairman and the barking dogs that go with it. But the bad news is he has to come back because he had to order a part. And as you'll recall from our previous discussion, the washing machine is hidden behind a cabinet and under a countertop. Right. So I had to have the contractor come and take that all apart. So right now the whole face is off of the cabinets. And so now you can see all of the lint that built up on the floor. And he said, we better take everything off this counter just in case. So everything that was up there is now on the island. And yeah, it's going to be like that for a week because the repairman has to come back in a week with the part. So enjoy my living with that mess for.
This is like a recurring theme for us here. I had my heat fixed, then I had my water heater replaced. Now you're having your washing machine worked on. Nicole, your appliances are all well covered, right? You've got the contracts. You're good.
Well, I have the contracts, but the contractor comes when he comes, and this week we had to wait 4 days for hot water.
Oh no!
Oh, no.
We were glamping in our house. That's terrible. I was spilling water like the good old days.
Oh man.
So, yeah. Anyway, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Parenting Roundabout, a weekly podcast about the things that parents are talking about, like their appliances, obsessing about, and complaining about right now.
Actually, all of that applies to our appliances.
Yes. I'm Nicole Erdix. And with me today are Terri Morrow and Catherine Haleko. Hello, Terri.
Hello. Everything's working in my house right now. Do I have some wood here nearby to knock on? Keeping my fingers crossed.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi. The other good news is that I can still do laundry. So
Yay.
I know how important that is for you.
Yes.
Are you having to? It actually works. You don't have to go to a laundromat or something.
It works. It just leaks.
Oh, how fun.
I just have to stop up the water when it leaks.
Do you have a wet vac?
Yes, we do. It's not even that much.
Okay.
So it's okay.
Every now and then when you need a wet vac, you're reminded of what a miracle they are.
Yes.
They are so awesome. We got the cheapest, smallest one we could find the other day, and it just took up all that water. It was so amazing. It squeegeed the floor.
Nice.
God
we got to give a shout out to the wet vac.
Yes, they're awesome.
Well, today on our podcast, we're talking about parent burnout. We are going to ask how our kids resemble us on our Friday speed round. We're going to shout out some stuff we like on the Roundabout Roundup, hear an interview with Robert Rummel-Hudson and my dog bark in the background, and do some shameless self-promotion. But first, what's new with you guys?
Besides appliance problems.
Right. It's all about the appliances. When we built the kitchen and we put the washing machine behind this thing, my contractor was like, it's fine. You just take this, move this screw and do this, and then you can take this right off. And so then when I realized I really was going to have to call, I said to him, because he's still here dealing with the bathroom periodically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I said, I'm going to have to get this fixed. Can you show me how to take this thing off? And he looks at it for a few minutes and he's like, I think I need to do it for you. So I don't really remember exactly what I did here. So he had to come back and
So now are you going to have Bluetooth on the washer when it's done?
Ooh, maybe. So I can listen to podcasts.
There you go. Absolutely.
Perfect. Awesome. So anyway, that's the excitement around here.
I would like to have more to say about this, but I'm feeling kind of burnt out today. And conveniently, that is the topic of our first topic in our episode today is parent burnout. And what do we want to say about parent burnout, you guys? I just want to go take a nap. So our podcast is dedicated to the topics parents complain about, so we thought we'd discuss what can happen when you are just overwhelmed with how much work parenting can be. Physical, logical, emotional. Do you ever feel burned out as a parent? I am feeling burned out as a parent. A combination of work and parent burnout. You know, it's like when you have so much work that you are just working at the edge of your capacity and then your kids need you. And it's like, well, I'm the most awful person in the world if I don't drop everything and tend to my child. But I got to do this stuff. What do you do?
Who's gonna do this?
And it's like, I'm good at the work. I'm crappy at the counseling the child. Can't I just do what I'm good at? But that is not well taken by the young people. So it's kind of right now I'm having kind of combination burnout. Probably one or other thing, the other thing I could handle, but the two together just makes me want to go lie down and weep.
Well, and it's the relentlessness that,
yes,
you know, when it feels like you're the only one,
yes,
you can do all this stuff, and if you don't, everything's going to fall apart. It's hard. It's just something that's hard to.
And when you're the person in your family who has to deal with all the stuff, do the researching of stuff, do the filling out of forms, do all of that, and you ask your spouse for some advice, what do you think we should do here? And your spouse picks the thing that will be more work for you. It's like,
I thought you were going to say the spouse was like, oh, never, whatever you say.
Well, that actually in some cases would be wiser. But lately what I have is, we should do this. And it's like, well, this thing I can keep doing what I'm doing. This thing I have to research something completely different and do a whole bunch of stuff. You're not going to do any of that. Don't pick that option. So that is not helping. My darling husband. That is not
amazingly helping. That is not helping.
So why do I ask him would be the question. Why don't I just do what I want to do?
Right, but that's part of why you get burned out is because you feel like it's all on your shoulder. And, you know, one way to try to spread it out a little is, hey, do some of this mental work that I'm doing.
Exactly.
So that I think is what makes it.
But then they don't. They just said, yes, dear, you should go do all of that. But are you guys feeling the burnout now too?
Yeah. I mean, just the other day, my daughter was like, how come you never want to drive me anywhere? I'm like, because that's all I do all day, every day, you know, and it just gets tiring, you know, and she doesn't see it, you know, she doesn't realize it. But, you know, when I get in the car at 3 o'clock, and then I basically don't stop until 5 or 6.
Man.
That's just annoying.
It is.
So, yeah.
And I mean, she's doing fun things all along, but you're just chauffeuring.
Right, and when there's the extra, like, oh, and can you whatever.
Yeah.
Like, really? That's when I whine, and that's what she picks up on.
Yeah. How long till she can drive herself?
About a little more than a year, but you know, that's scary too.
Yes.
I don't.
Then you will sit home worrying all that time you would have been driving. And telling her, text me every time you stop the car so that I know you're still alive.
But only after you turn off the ignition.
Yes, really. Pull over to the side every 5 minutes. Turn the car off. And say, I'm still alive, Mom. Just so I'll know.
What's going on?
They love that.
I'm sure they do.
How burned out are you, Nicole? Scale of 1 to 10.
I'm burned out in specific areas of my life right now. So not in every area, but
that's nice.
Like recently, like I have passport photo burnout is what I have right now.
Okay.
Because my family and I have been traipsing all over Southern California to find a photographer that does Canadian passport photos specifically. And
what is different about
it's
Canadian passport photos than U.S. passport photos?
Well, Canadians are a little picky.
Because the U.S. ones are pretty picky too, but I guess they're picky in different ways. Or you could use a U.S. one.
Like no shadows, no shine, no smile. Your head has to be like a certain, I don't know, number of millimeters from crown to chin. It's really intense. And of course, most places down here obviously cater to American passport photos. Mm-hmm. So it's just been relentless. And we sent one batch in to the government thinking that they were great. And then we got them back and they weren't. And then we, found another photographer and went to his studio and he wasn't there. So now, we're going to have to go into LA, I'm sure, sometime next week. And
is it possible that your government is just passive aggressively
could be
swatting you around for living in America?
Yeah.
Oh, these aren't quite right. We're sorry. Yeah. You have to go do them again.
That's what you get for leaving us.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. It seems like a very Canadian way to be tweaking you.
Yeah. Very passive aggressive way. So I'm in passport photo burnout right now. And not to mention all the forms that have to be filled out that go along. So, yeah, but I think in other areas, not so bad.
Well, that's good.
I'm doing okay.
Then can I have you research a bunch of stuff for me?
As long as it has nothing to do with passport.
Can you find one kid a job and the other kid insurance? You'll be fine. It's not hard.
Not that hard.
Oh, big.
Yes, I'll tell you what my hourly rate is after we have prediction. Your personal
I might be interested, actually.
Might be worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Really might.
Well, when you get a sense that you're getting burnt out, do you sense it before it crashes down upon you, number one? And number two, are there things that you do to relieve yourself before you explode? I am very bad at that. I generally explode and then I spend the next week apologizing to people for it. But if I could get out and take a walk, that would be helpful. Or listen to music, or just, go in a room and be alone. But by the time I am able to do those things, I've already spouted off and everybody is very concerned about me. And then it seems hostile if I do any of those things. So I am bad at it. What do you guys do? Catherine, do you have a way to pre-burnout, coat yourself in some protective layer of cement so that you don't spew radiation on other people?
Yeah, it is hard. It's definitely hard. And right now I'm thinking about how the next few months are just, it's high season for all the sports and it's the holidays and it's,
the
school
holidays.
stuff and work stuff. And, I'm worrying about it before it even happens. So, I'm trying to take care of whatever I can do in advance so that, I have more time so that I don't get way behind.
Yeah.
Because that will make me freaked out, So it's not easy. And being able to have a little time to myself or maybe with friends or something like that, getting together with people sometimes can help, or saying, I need to take this or that off my plate, and I need you to, whoever it is, it might be a spouse, it might be a kid, it might be, part of a volunteer organization, whatever, to say I'm just not gonna be able to. Although this morning I was talking to an editor who wanted me to do something for this month, and I was like, well, I already have these 3 other assignments from you, and I don't know if I can do them all. And she kind of didn't take no for an answer.
Oh,
so
wow.
I think I have to still. She basically was like, this will be easy. Just do this.
Invite her to come to your house and deal with all the other things, and then you will have time for that.
Right.
Yeah, I am so bad at that. I am not able to turn down work. I just keep saying, "Oh, I'll make it work. I'll make it work," which basically involves, not sleeping and being a frantic person to everybody in my life. So that does not help.
Yeah.
That is what contributes to the burnout on that end. But I'm also just like, how many months have I been trying to find people jobs in my house? That
Right.
I am so burnt out on that. That is, filling out the applications, waiting around, waiting to hear,
Mm-hmm.
getting excited about the interview, waiting to hear, filling out more applications, combing websites looking for stuff, combing
Right.
newspapers looking for stuff. I am so burnt out on that, and it's still not really 100% resolved. So
That's
I
hard.
can't turn down any of that stuff either. I can't just say,
No.
well,
And that's the thing.
and we're in insurance open enrollment time, and there's so much to think about that, and so little, the clock is ticking, and I'm so afraid I'm going to miss the window. So
Right.
I'm just going to put my head down now. But
Understandable.
yeah, so are holidays a big burnout time for you guys?
Well, for me, we don't have a lot of family in the area,
Yeah.
so it's just usually 4 or 5 of us, and I outsource quite a bit for my holiday food.
Yeah, we have
Right.
trimmed down the holidays about as much as possible. We're basically just having the 4 of us plus a family friend for Thanksgiving, and we're going to get Boston Market, and that's going to be that. And then for the holidays, I've stopped doing Christmas cards because I was the only one who was doing them and the only one who was caring.
Yeah.
And who else? It's a nicety that I just don't have the time and energy for. And pretty much everybody in my life now is happy with gift cards, so that cuts down on a lot of the shopping and wrapping. So we're minimalist these days. That is an area where I've been able to trim burnout. And people probably think badly of me, and I, do not really care. That is not, my identity is not tied up in my holiday array.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty basic here too.
Do you do a lot of decorating and card sending and wrapping, Catherine?
Some. This year our Christmas is still a little up in the air. We're not quite sure where we're going to be yet, so that's a little stressful. And our Thanksgiving we're hosting here with about 10 people in addition to our foursome.
Yeah,
So
that's stressful.
Wow.
the thing, the hardest part about that is that there are these skating trips, these long, very tiring bus trips, and one is the weekend before Thanksgiving and one is the weekend after.
No.
So it's just like bam, 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 one thing after another. So that's hard.
Can't it be at somebody else's house?
Well, but the thing is, it's actually, then we have to travel. And so it's
that's
better
true.
for us if we can stay home and they come to us.
Is it possible you can slip the bus driver some money to get stranded somewhere, and darn the luck you can't get home in time for Thanksgiving?
I don't mind being home for Thanksgiving. It's just I'm looking forward to seeing my family and everything, but the room that I'm sitting in podcasting is someone's going to need to sleep in here, and there's papers stacked up all over the floor, and there's kids art projects all strewn in the corner, and so that it's got to get cleaned up. Stuff like that has to get done, and it can't be done the weekend before because I'll be gone.
Yeah.
So I have
man.
think
That's you got to
in advance.
delegate somebody else to do that, and then it's somebody else's fault because you were off with your
I
child.
was gone. Well, I already delegate the whole cooking thing to my husband, so
Okay.
I have to little nice to him.
Whose family is coming over, yours or his, or both?
Fine.
Oh, okay. Well, then you do have to be nice to him.
Yes.
In my case, it was always my husband's family, so it's this is all your fault.
Yeah, and he gets very stressed out about making sure that the food is good, and and it always is. It's always really good. He's a good cook, and he does a great job. And he always is I'm sure everyone hated it. They loved it.
Oh, I gave Nicole's husband a fist bump last week. I think give your husband a fist bump for me. That is so me.
Yeah. Yep. He makes the same turkey from a recipe that we've been using for a long time that everyone loves. So
Yeah, but it's when your spouse's family, you just always feel like they're talking about you after they leave. Do you have judgy relatives? Or are they nice? Do they listen to this podcast?
I don't think so, but they're very nice. I do not judge him at all.
Yeah.
They're very appreciative of his food.
My feeling is you didn't have to cook it. Sit down, shut up, put it in your face. But that is not always a popular philosophy.
There was one Thanksgiving when my son was about 4 and we were at my mom's house and we had driven there, like a 7-hour drive. And the day before he was just like an angel, even though he'd been in the car all day. And then the day of Thanksgiving, he refused to put on any pants and he was naked from the waist down, sitting in the corner, just chanting, "I hate you! I hate you! I hate you!"
Oh, no.
And I had to take him in the kitchen and eat in the kitchen.
Oh my!
And else was at the dining room table.
You were feeling all kinds of thankful that day, I'll bet.
Yes, thankful.
Do you tell that story again every Thanksgiving just to pay him back?
Yeah.
Do you have a picture of him sitting in his underwear that you can show?
I don't even think he had underwear on. I think he was fully butt
an SFW then. Well, we're getting a little burned out. We're getting burned out on this topic and complaining. So let's move on to another. We're getting the not so cheerful topics here for our round 2, Friday round 2s. This week, well, you got this one, Catherine. Introduce our speed round.
Yeah. So recently on another speed round, we talked about which of our parents were most like. So today we thought we'd ask what traits of yourself you see in your kids, and is that good or bad? And I will tell you, I have never sat naked at the Thanksgiving and chanted, "I hate you." So he did not get that from me.
That is good to know.
Oh, how about you, Nicole? What do your kids get from you, if anything?
I think my son gets more of my traits than my daughter. My son is very well, I don't know, how do you say it? He's definitely more of a thinking, feeling kind of a person. Oh. He's a little bit more, he's not, there's very few traits of my husband in him. And I see my husband in my daughter. Oh my gosh. Oh, really? She's a force to be reckoned with, that one. Not that my son, of course, has his own strengths, but it's interesting to see some of the things that my daughter comes up with, and I admire that in her, and as well as my son, because he's quite compassionate. So nice. It's really interesting. It's they've kind of, sometimes, well, I was anticipating when I had my kids that my son would be more like my husband, and that whole gender thing, right? And no, the wires got crossed. So it's pretty neat to see. And I used to treat my daughter very much like, based on how I would think or feel about something. And then I would find out later, no, she didn't.
That wasn't the way to go.
That wasn't the way to go. Or why did you do that? Or, So, she's very, very different character, that one, from me.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
How about you, Terri? What
have
you noticed?
Like an interesting study in nature versus nurture, because, genetically there's no crossover, and yet I have somehow still managed to pass on the Blumenfeld worry gene that I got from my mother to my adopted daughter. How that works, I don't know. Wow. It is a hardy
special
gene.
Talent.
It can travel through space and embed itself. So yes, I see, especially in my daughter, the worry and anxiety that I suffer, and she often says how much she hates me for it. So it's very nice. I hate your genes. It's like, you don't actually have my genes, sweetheart, but I hate them too. So that's cool. We'll hate them together. And and my son has some anxiety issues too. So I feel like I'm a carrier for sure. of that, and I hate it. I don't want them to be like that. And I mean, I've always had anxiety, but I've also always had a drive to put myself into difficult situations. Just throw myself into things, and then I had to deal with them. Whereas they're not quite that. They don't have that part of it. They just have the anxiousness and worry part of it. So I'm pushing them, but they don't want to do that. So, yeah, that's pretty messed up. I wish I could say I saw positive traits, but I see all the negatives is what I see. And, my daughter is always saying she takes after my husband in terms of they're both morning people and they have some temperamental things in common. And my son and my husband, I see a lot of things in common. But what I see of my traits in my kids is anxiety, worry, dread.
Yeah.
Happy.
Yeah.
So besides not having inherited his Thanksgiving Day traditions from you, Catherine, is there anything you do see in your kids?
Well, I think my daughter and I are more alike because just because we clash more. You know how you've one kid that one parent gets along with better, and so for me it's my son and I are a little more simpatico, and my daughter and I are a little more likely to needle each other. Yeah. And then it's the exact it's the opposite with my husband, where he and my son will fight, and he and my daughter don't seem to. So it seems like it has done that thing where one is alike, where when you are two alike, you clash. So yes. I can't even point to a specific thing that we have in common. It's just that whole situation. So I mean, it's not bad. We get along just fine, but she likes it. How come I don't like to drive her, please? I just don't like you.
That must be it. Yeah. Well, let's wrap up this cheerful speed round here and get on to something more fun.
Yes, that is it for our speed round, and you can hear a new one every Monday through Thursday.
Sorry, that dog of mine. Now we want to bring you some things that we've read or seen or used recently that we want to shout out and share with you. So, Terri, what do you have for us this week?
Well, since I seem to be in a rut of talking about Hamilton things here constantly, because nobody in my house wants to hear it, so I tell it to you, who, if you're fast forwarding as I'm speaking, I can't see you. But someplace that might be fun if you know a Hamilton fan to look at for Christmas presents is a site called TeeRico.com. It's TeeRico, and it's full of Lin-Manuel Miranda related merchandise. There's some In the Heights stuff. There's some things taken from his Twitter feed that he's done. Lots of merchandise based on his Tony acceptance speech. It's just a lot of fun things, and certainly any Hamilton lover or Lin-Manuel Miranda fan of your acquaintance would be very happy to get something from there. The downside, it's a little pricey, but very cool and unique stuff. So check it out.
Cool.
And buy me something from there because I can't afford it.
Well, I'm going to mention something that is just a silly little BuzzFeed quiz, but it got my son to finish his homework and also stop watching YouTube videos for half a second because he was so interested in doing this quiz, which is, which Hogwarts house does your dog belong in? So you answer a series of questions and your dog will be sorted into the proper house.
Oh my. Nicole, you have a BuzzFeed thing too?
I do.
BuzzFeed should be able to pay us a kickback here.
Seriously, I was inspired by our Thanksgiving conversation and I actually, as we were talking about it, I was starting to get really stressed about Thanksgiving and found this list of 17 life-saving Thanksgiving hacks or cooking hacks. So there's a list there of ways to hack your Thanksgiving cooking for people who are burnt out or Maybe not.
I will have to pass that on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
My favorite hack is call Boston Market. Go pick it up.
Yes.
Put it in actual dishes in your oven so people won't know.
That's right.
Well, moving on to our interview segment. This week, as I do once a month, I talked to Robert Rummel-Hudson. This week we talked about a topic we've talked about here before, which is the new sitcom Speechless on ABC, which we have been watching right along. There's now quite a few more episodes under our belt than we have the last time we talked about it. So Rob and I had a chat about how we think they're doing depicting our special needs experience. So let's listen to that now. So we've seen like 6 episodes of Speechless to this point, long enough to kind of get a feel as to whether it's going to be as promising as we thought it was from the first episode. At least I did. I was in love with it from the previews. So after 6 episodes, how are you feeling about it, Rob? Are you still liking it?
You know what? I am. I really am. I mean, anytime you're looking at a sitcom treatment of something, I think you have to put on your sitcom glasses because there's always going to be a certain level of unreality and a certain level of goofiness.
Yeah.
And that goes way back. I mean, think about like MASH.
Right.
Back in the 70s. There was a lot of, obviously, very unrealistic comedy tropes that were plugged into something that was very serious and grim and sort of from the heart and very realistic. I think that Speechless is kind of having to do the same thing. What I was afraid of was, I mean, I think we all knew going in this was going to be, it's going to be a comedy. It's going to be a network comedy.
Yeah.
It's not where great strides in realistic storytelling are made, typically. My big fear was how were the disability issues going to play into these sort of wacky sitcom aspects of it. And I actually have been pretty satisfied and pleasantly surprised that those pieces are not straying too terribly far from the reality that I think that most of us who are in that situation have experienced. And when they do, it's in ways that are sort of plugging comedy into something that feels very, very familiar.
Yeah.
It feels very much, I guess the way I think of it is it either feels real or it feels like the sort of dark comedy that we all engage in to each other.
Right.
It either feels real or it feels like the jokes that we're making to each other on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate the level of sort of dignity and with that also a sort of irreverency. I think there's been a good balance between the two. It hasn't been too sort of insufferably inspirationally cute.
Yes.
And it hasn't crossed the line, I don't feel. So I feel really satisfied so far. I feel like the missteps that it's made have all just been sort of comedy missteps that don't really have to do with the disability aspects of it. I'm like, yeah, that wasn't that funny. But at no point have I ever been like, oh, they really missed that. That's not what it's like.
Yeah.
Missteps I feel like are just, well, it's network TV comedy. It's only going to go so far. And when it gets it right, man, I feel like it's getting it really, really right.
Yeah. I think in fitting our issues into that sitcom format, even though every now and then we have to put up with the sitcominess of it, it normalizes it in a way that I think is really nice. Just to have these issues going on just along with all the other sitcom things that you would see on any other family show.
Right.
I think they've done such an amazing job of making JJ a full character with a personality, with, a reverence about him and opinions of his own. That's really gratifying to see, I think.
Yeah, and that feels new. That feels new in a way that it shouldn't.
Exactly. Yes.
If I have one great annoyance with this program, it is that it took until the year 2016 for it to even occur to somebody in a mainstream entertainment venue to say, hey, there is real world, real life comedy and drama that can be drawn from this situation.
Yeah.
And we can cast an authentic person with a disability.
Right.
And we can cast somebody who doesn't just bring authenticity, but brings a voice, an authentic voice, which I guess maybe is there's some irony there.
Yeah, possibly not the right word, but
you know what? I'm actually going to stick with voice because I think one of the things that the show has illustrated to the person who is never confronted, disability or nonverbal disability in particular, is that, that somebody who does not communicate the way that the person does has a voice and has a very strong voice. And I like the voice. I like the fact that he's not a hero. I like the fact that he's like every teenager ever. And if you're a teenager listening, I'm sorry, but you hear this. Like every teenager in the world, he's a bit of an ass. He's got his own agenda, and it is not inspirational, and it doesn't jibe with his family. Right. He's a teenage boy who's got teenage boy stuff going on. Love that.
Yeah. Really
I could have a whole series of just him remarking on the world around him. Those are the strongest points. So, and it's funny. One of the things that has been very interesting to me in watching, now you and I have discussed this a little bit, but is watching the sort of online reaction to the show and how there are subtle but important differences between the reactions of professionals, whether they're teachers or therapists, and the reactions of parents and family members and people with disabilities. It definitely feels like there's a starting point for a really important conversation there. I've seen a lot of comments from teachers and from therapists, from SLPs in particular, saying things like, first of all, I don't think that these characters are very realistic. And then in particular, I think that they're talking about the parents, talking about the mother.
Really?
That this doesn't represent... this is too over the top, or commenting that, well, I don't like this character because the way that she's trying to get things accomplished is not effective, and it's just conflict without really effective results. Whereas the parents, I've read the parent reactions, and it's not just this feels accurate. Yeah. It almost feels like it's one step beyond, where I've seen a lot of parents who are like, tonight's episode felt familiar to me because, and then boom, they've got a story with it. Yeah. So, which side is right? I think the answer is yes. And I think that the conversation that can be had there is an important one. One of the things I do like about the show is that it doesn't show the school district and teachers and whatnot as being wrong. It shows sometimes as being ineffective and trying hard to get it right and totally blowing it. And at the same time, it shows this the parents, but in particular the mother, kind of represents all of us releasing the at some point. Yeah. And show this mother really fighting very, very strongly for her kid, but also shows her maybe neglecting her other kids and having to find that balance and totally getting it wrong in her advocacy. And I think that's really important. And that was the piece I was really hoping that they would get right. Not just showing how hard we fight, not just showing how hard we have to fight, but also showing how sometimes we don't fight right, if that makes sense.
And out of trying to do the right thing and just doing it wrong, there's no guidelines for how to do this. As I explained to my adult children now many times, I really had no idea what I was doing. I just did what I thought was best, even though in retrospect, that was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah. And I think the show illustrates an important point, that a lot of the times it's not about getting it right. A lot of times it's just about showing up. And if you show up and you throw a bomb that you didn't need to throw, it's the wrong target, still you're there and you're learning. And the next time maybe you're not going to throw a bomb. Maybe just, some strong language. Or maybe that bomb is not going to hit the wrong target. So I think the show is really getting those pieces right, considering that it's network television. Yeah. You know what I was thinking about? The last one we were watching, because the last episode I saw was dealing with some dating issues. Yeah. And it was a little watered down for a teenager. And I'm dealing with a teenager who's in that place.
Place lucky you.
Drink. And I thought, imagine what this show would look like on basic cable. Yeah. Imagine what it would look like on HBO. And it made me excited about what this show represents and what the next step might represent. Yeah. It's opening a lot of doors. The show in and of itself, I think, is a success. But I think what the possibilities that it represents, I think that's what's really got me excited.
Yeah.
the next show, and I hope people are watching this show. I really, and if people are watching this show who know nothing about disability. I want people to be watching this show because it's a funny show.
Yeah.
And
Which
not
it
just
is.
This is a part of my life, and this is looks like my life.
Yeah.
I want them watching this that are going, hey, this show is really funny, and holy crap, I had no idea.
Yeah, I think it's really important that it be on a network show, a family comedy amidst family comedies. And, you know, there's certainly rooms for all different artistic depictions of that experience. But one that is seen by an exponentially huger audience than it would get on cable is important. And it's not, you know, people can't just say, oh, well, I don't watch that, or I don't get that, or you know what, I don't like shows on that thing. It's right there in your living room. And it fits in very, very well with all the things around it.
And I think it's a good, and this is going to sound condescending, I don't mean for it. It feels like a good entry-level program.
Yes.
For the issues. This, you know, it's not, rah, holy crap, this is hard. It is, you know, you may not know about this. Let's give you a little peek. And by the way, you're going to laugh because it's really funny. It's got great actors and all the stuff that you look for in television.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to open a door that maybe you didn't think about opening. I don't think most people, and maybe this is negative, but I don't think most people watch TV to, especially network TV. I don't think they're watching it to expand their experience. I think they're watching it because they're looking for escapism. They're looking for, aha, funny, I laughed, or whatever. I mean, there's so much good stuff on television that is sort of enriching. And then there's so much on television that is just entertaining and escapist. And I love this show is kind of snuck into that realm.
Definitely.
You know? It's snuck into the point where people are like, oh, I'm just watching TV to have a good time, and I'm going to watch Modern Family after this.
Yeah.
You think you're getting junk food, and maybe there's some, you know, someone snuck in some vegetables.
Before we run out of time, I want to ask you what you think specifically about how they're treating the issues of a nonverbal teenager. He uses the board, which I think is partially just so they can have an extra character in to be reading his messages and things. But what do you feel about that? You wish he was using something different? Do you think it's effective?
You know, that was my first question when I first started to see, you know, how this was going to be represented. I thought, are there people that communicate like that? And as it turns out, here I go. I learned something that totally blew me away, that there's actually, it's almost like a subculture of nonverbal users who shy away from the technology, and they prefer to use a speaking aid, someone very similar to the character. I had no idea, and it wasn't until I saw an interview with the creator of the program I realized, all right, I just learned something, because I've always been such a proponent of technology and the technical solution to this, and it turns out that this sort of old school personal connection, and I think it's that personal connection that is what a lot of these users are looking for. Right. That's still a thing. So I think it conveniently works out that it's a thing, because it gives the show a narrative that it wouldn't have if it was actually using assistive technology. And that would be a very difficult thing to portray too. You'd have to do the same thing that the Stephen Hawking movie did, which is just pretend like there's not a delay, even though that delay is a huge part of the pitfalls and the things that you deal with that communication. I think this was an artful dodge, but it turns out it's a valid point. So
that's interesting to know.
So when I saw that, I was like, okay, I'll buy into this. Sure. And from a storytelling perspective, it does improve the story. So at some point you have to be like, okay, this is a network that's presenting an entertainment piece for us, and we're going to have to deal with, the little things that maybe are not, we can't be the nerds who are like, no, that's not how that works. But as it turns out, there is actually justification for that perspective, which I didn't know going in. So it's kind of cool. The one moment that got to me, and there's so many ones, and anyone who's seen the program will know, and anyone who's getting started with the program will know when they get it. I'll simply say the bulletproof speech from the father. I was afraid that this father was going to be kind of a cliched Homer Simpson kind of character. And it turns out the father, in some ways, is just the most sort of subtle character there is, because he is
Yes.
he's not in, he's not the front line, he's not the bad cop, but he's a very interesting good cop.
Yes.
He's a character to watch, and when he talks about being bulletproof, I'm an old grouch, but I just tears. I'm sitting on the couch going, oh my God, I must have allergies or something. I can't.
Yeah, I agree. That was a great speech. And I really like that character and that performance. And every few episodes, they give us a little more insight into him. And it's all been just spot on. So hopefully maybe we'll take another shot at talking about this a little further down the road, maybe at the end of the season. Continue to keep our eye on it. And thanks for coming and talking about it.
Thank you for having me again. It's a lot of fun.
All right, and now for our final segment today, we're going to do a little shameless self-promotion and direct you to some things on our sites that we think you should take a look at. Nicole, what do you have for us today?
Well, I'm trying to build up my personal Twitter, so I'm just going to shout out my personal Twitter account, which is Nicole Eridix. And if you need to know how to spell my last name, just go to parentingroundabout.com.
We'll have the link there.
I'm trying to build up some community on that account.
Great. And how about you, Terri? What's up with you that you want to mention?
Well, since Nicole is touting one of her Twitter accounts, I'll tout one of my Twitter accounts. I don't know if I've mentioned this much recently. I have a Twitter account called Special Needs News Tweets, in which I'm trying to share disability news as I find it around the internet, especially with one of my favorite disability news websites having a paywall now. I'm going to try to find out where all their stories originated and tweet that. So we'll have the link. I can't think offhand what the handle is, but we'll have the link for it on the show notes for this. And follow me.
Great. And I'll just mention something that's pretty new of mine up on VeryWell. It's ways to motivate kids to play outside. So, when your kids are, even if they're not like parked on the couch watching YouTube, which may happen sometimes in my house. But just if they're like, I don't feel like going outside, how can you turn that around and get them out the door? So that's on VeryWell.
Looks like that's it for this week's episode of Parenting Roundabout. We hope you enjoyed it and that you'll join us every week. You can listen to podcast episodes on parentingroundabout.com or download it from iTunes. Please subscribe so you get all of our weekly podcasts and mini podcasts. You can also follow us on Twitter, where I am at Nicole Eridix. Catherine is at About Family Fit, and Terri is at Mamatude. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at Roundabout Chat and look for us on Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, YouTube, and Instagram too. Best of all, stop by our blog at parentingroundabout.com and read recaps, find links on all the stories we mentioned, and talk back in the comments. Thanks to John Warren for providing our in and out music, and I wish everyone a great week.